ready for a deep dive. We're taking a look at VR and XR.
Oh, yeah.
And going beyond all the hype,
Yeah.
to see why these immersive experiences
Right.
sometimes,
Sure.
well, they just miss the mark.
Yeah.
We've got research, articles, all about the design challenges
Interesting.
that are holding VR and XR back.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll be looking at what a truly spatial interface might actually look like.
It is fascinating to see just how much potential VR and XR have.
Yeah.
To change how we work and learn and play.
Exactly.
But often the interface itself
Yeah.
is a barrier.
It really is. It's like stepping into the future.
Yeah.
Only to be handed.
Right.
Like a really clunky instruction manual from the 90s.
Totally.
You would think in these amazing virtual worlds,
Yeah.
we'd be interacting in new and exciting ways.
For sure.
But so often it's the same old keyboard and mouse.
Yeah.
Or even worse,
Uh-huh.
a floating 2D menu
Oh, I know.
in a 3D space.
Yeah.
Feels so off.
Exactly. And that disconnect between the promise of VR and XR and the reality
Yes.
of interacting with it can really impact the user,
Yeah.
even physically.
Oh, you mean like motion sickness?
Exactly.
I've definitely experienced that after using certain VR apps.
Yeah. And, poorly designed interfaces can trigger this sensory mismatch that leads to nausea or headaches.
Wow.
When the visual cues clash with your body's sense of movement,
Yeah.
it can be really uncomfortable.
Don't even get me started on those jarring ads that pop up in the middle of a VR experience.
Yeah.
Talk about ruining the immersion.
Right.
You're exploring this beautiful virtual landscape and suddenly, bam, a giant virtual billboard is right in your face.
And it really is a design problem.
Yeah.
Right now, a lot of VR and XR interfaces are designed like they're still on a flat screen.
Okay.
Developers try to just replicate familiar 2D interactions instead of embracing the unique possibilities of a 3D space.
Seems so obvious.
I know, but there's a better way.
Okay.
Imagine instead of clicking through these menus,
Uh-huh.
you could navigate through a virtual environment
Right.
where the layout itself makes sense.
So instead of a list of options, the menu would be part of the virtual world.
Exactly.
That's fascinating. What would that look like?
Think about how you organize things in the real world.
Okay.
You group items based on their function or relationship,
Uh-huh.
not alphabetically. This is called a semantic map.
Semantic map.
Yeah.
So instead of a flat menu,
Uh-huh.
you might have a virtual workbench
Exactly.
where tools are laid out as you would expect to find them
Right.
in a real workshop.
That's it. And it's not just about menus.
Okay.
What if your entire virtual workspace adapted to the task at hand,
Oh, wow.
bringing the most relevant tools and information to the forefront?
That's incredible.
That's the power of spatial design.
Okay, I am starting to see how a spatial approach
Yeah.
could make VR and XR so much more intuitive. But what about video? How does this design revolution change how we watch movies or shows?
This is where it gets really exciting.
Okay.
Instead of watching a movie on a virtual screen,
Right.
which kind of defeats the purpose of VR,
Yeah.
imagine being surrounded by the action.
Uh-huh.
You can turn your head
Yeah.
and experience the scene from any angle.
Wow.
We call this experiential video.
So instead of just watching a scene, you could feel like you're in it.
Exactly. And not just in it,
Okay.
but able to interact with it.
Really?
What if the video responded to your gaze, offering different perspectives or revealing hidden details
Oh, wow.
based on where you looked?
That would be amazing.
This kind of dynamic interaction has the potential to revolutionize how we experience storytelling.
So we've got these clunky flat interfaces holding VR and XR back,
Right.
causing discomfort and breaking the immersion.
Yeah.
But then we have these incredible possibilities with spatial and semantic design that could completely change the game.
The challenge and the opportunity lies in embracing that spatial thinking
Absolutely.
and designing for the unique possibilities of virtual reality.
This is really making me think differently about the future of VR and XR.
Yeah.
So if spatial design is the answer, why aren't we seeing more of it?
That's a great question.
What's holding back this design revolution?
That is what we're going to explore next.
Okay, sounds good.
We'll dive into the challenges and opportunities
All right.
facing VR and XR designers and explore some real-world examples
Sounds great.
of spatial design in action.
I'm excited to hear it.
Stay tuned.
All right, we'll be right back.
After a quick break.
Okay.
Welcome back.
All right, so we've been looking at the current VR and XR landscape.
Yes.
And, we've seen that there are some design hiccups.
Definitely.
These clunky interfaces are like trying to fit square pegs into round holes.
Right.
It's frustrating and disorienting.
Yeah.
So where do we go from here? How do we bridge this gap?
Well, the good news is that some developers are already pushing boundaries.
Oh, okay. And showing us what is possible.
Like what?
There's this really interesting VR sculpting application that completely throws out the traditional menu system.
Hold on. No menus.
Nope.
How do you even choose your tools or change the settings?
That's the genius of it.
Okay.
Instead of menus, your tools are objects in the virtual world.
Oh, okay.
Want to use a chisel, you just pick it up from your virtual workbench.
Interesting.
You need to change the size. Just reach out and resize it with your hands.
Oh, wow.
As if you were holding a real chisel.
So you're directly interacting with the tools as part of the environment.
Exactly.
That's so much more intuitive than digging through layers of menus.
Right. And it's not just about mimicking real-world actions.
Okay.
Imagine a VR design program where 3D models could be manipulated directly, as if you were molding clay with your hands.
That would be incredible.
Or a medical training simulation where you could reach out and interact with the virtual heart.
Wow.
You could feel its texture and study its intricate structure. Okay, I'm definitely starting to see how spatial design can transform VR and XR.
Good.
But let's be real for a second. We can talk about all these cool ideas.
Yeah.
But are they actually being used in practice?
Yes.
Are there real-world examples of spatial and semantic design making a difference?
Absolutely. One of the most compelling examples comes from the world of data visualization.
Okay.
Traditionally, data is presented in these static charts and graphs,
Right.
which can be difficult to grasp.
Yeah, staring at a spreadsheet isn't exactly the most exciting way to understand complex data.
No, it's not. But imagine if you could walk through a 3D landscape where data points are represented by objects of different shapes, sizes, and colors.
Okay.
You could literally see patterns and trends emerge as you move through the data.
So instead of just reading numbers, you could actually experience the data spatially.
Exactly.
That's mind-blowing.
And it gets even more interesting.
Okay.
What if you could reach out and manipulate these data objects, zoom in to explore specific details, filter out irrelevant data, or even rotate the entire model?
Wow.
And see it from a different perspective.
That would be incredible.
It would.
It would be like having a virtual laboratory for exploring and understanding complex information.
Right.
Are there any real-world applications of this kind of spatial data visualization?
Actually, yes. There's a company that's using this approach to help scientists analyze protein structures.
Wow.
They've created a VR environment where researchers can walk through and interact with these incredibly complex molecules, gaining insights that would be impossible to achieve with traditional
That's amazing.
2D representations.
So spatial design isn't just about making things look cool.
Nope.
It's about actually enhancing our ability to understand and interact with complex information.
Precisely. And the possibilities extend far beyond data visualization.
Yeah.
We're seeing spatial design being used in education, healthcare, architecture, even entertainment.
It's everywhere.
The key is to think beyond the limitations of the flat screen.
Right.
And embrace the unique affordances of virtual and augmented reality.
This all sounds incredibly promising, but I can't help but wonder about the practicalities.
Sure.
You know, spatial design requires a whole new way of thinking.
Yeah.
A shift in mindset for developers.
It does.
Do you think the industry is ready for this kind of transformation?
That's a great question, and one we'll explore in depth next.
Right.
We'll take a look at the challenges and opportunities facing the future of VR and XR design.
We've been on quite the journey, exploring the world of VR and XR design.
We have.
Uncovering both the limitations of current interfaces
Right.
and the incredible potential of a more spatial approach.
It's really exciting.
We've seen how spatial design can transform everything.
Yeah.
From data visualization to medical training.
It really can.
Offering more intuitive, engaging, and ultimately more effective experiences.
Absolutely.
But as you mentioned, spatial design requires a real shift in thinking.
It does.
A move away from the familiar 2D paradigms we've all grown accustomed to.
Yeah, you know.
Do you think the industry is ready for this transformation?
I think we're at a tipping point.
Oh, okay.
There's a growing awareness of the limitations of current VR and XR interfaces. You know, users are experiencing discomfort, frustration, and a sense of unfulfilled potential.
Right. It's like you're stepping into this incredible virtual world.
Yes.
And you're greeted by a clunky, flat menu that just feels so out of place.
It takes you right out of it.
Exactly. And designers are starting to realize that simply replicating 2D interactions in a 3D space just isn't going to cut it.
It's not enough.
We need a whole new design language.
We do.
One that is native to the unique capabilities of VR and XR.
I agree. We need to start thinking differently.
So there's a growing demand for a better way to interact with these immersive environments.
Definitely.
But what about the supply side? Are developers equipped with the tools and knowledge
That's a good question.
to create these truly spatial interfaces?
There are definitely challenges.
Okay.
Designing for VR and XR requires a whole new set of skills and considerations.
Like what?
It's not just about visual design anymore.
Right.
It's about understanding how people move, perceive, and interact within a 3D space.
So it's not just about learning new software.
Right.
It's about developing a whole new design philosophy.
Exactly. We need to think about things like ergonomics, spatial audio, haptic feedback, and even the psychological impact of being immersed in a virtual environment.
It sounds like a pretty steep learning curve.
It is, but there are more and more resources available
good.
to help developers embrace spatial design principles.
That's great.
There are new design tools being developed specifically for VR and XR. And there's a growing community of designers and researchers who are sharing their knowledge and best practices.
That's good to hear. So it sounds like we're still in the early stages.
Yeah, I think so.
Of this spatial design revolution.
Yeah.
But the momentum is building.
Definitely.
What would you say are the biggest opportunities for innovation in the coming years?
Well, one area that's particularly exciting is the development of more intuitive and natural ways to interact with virtual objects. We're moving beyond those traditional controllers and exploring new possibilities with hand tracking, eye tracking, even voice commands.
So instead of using a controller to pick up a virtual object, you can just reach out and grab it with your hand.
Exactly. Or you could make selections with a glance.
Oh, wow.
Or issue commands with your voice, just like you would in the real world.
That would be amazing. That level of natural interaction opens up so many new possibilities.
It does. For example, we could create virtual workspaces where you can manipulate objects as if they were physically present.
That's incredible.
Or educational simulations where you can learn by interacting directly with virtual environments and objects.
It sounds like spatial design has the potential to fundamentally change not only how we interact with technology, but how we learn, work, and even play.
I agree. I think VR and XR have the power to transport us to new worlds, to connect us with others in meaningful ways, and even expand our understanding of the universe.
Absolutely, but to fully realize that potential,
we
need to design experiences worthy of these incredible technologies.
We do.
And that means embracing spatial thinking.
Sure.
Designing for the human experience and pushing the boundaries of what's possible in a 3D world.
I think that's a great way to put it.
This has been such an eye-opening exploration.
It has.
Of VR and XR design, and it's clear that we're on the cusp of a design revolution.
I agree.
One that has the potential to reshape how we interact with technology and the world around us.
It's a really exciting time to be in this space.
I agree. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope you've learned something new, and that you're as excited as we are about the possibilities of spatial design in VR and XR.
Me too.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.
I will.